Kreskin, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of What's on My Mind. I have a very dramatic, ironic, and strange story to tell you about momentarily, but I want to thank all of you for your participation a couple of days ago in the mental experience. We don't know how many thousands of folks participated because I didn't ask for any mailing or what have you. At the same time, if you're wondering what the results are, whose name came strongest in sensitivity, whether it was Biden or Trump, I'm going to not reveal that until after the election, which the way things are going now could be in 2 years from now. No, it'll be sometime after the election, so I can compare it with what I'm going to file in Atlantic City, by the way, in a safe on display in about a week and a half, who I believe will win the election for presidency. Do I have a decision? No, not now. My mind is pretty much on the images and the impressions I got from you folks. But there's something ironically interesting about this past week, because a story has broken in the news in New York, in New Jersey especially, because the story actually took place not far from where yours truly lives, and it deals with hypnosis. What makes it interesting is the irony and the synchronicity, because in my book I discuss a very dramatic experience in my life when in 1986 I went on trial. Yes, and I was tried by a jury. It's one of the most legendary cases in the history of hypnotism, because you see, at that time I came to the conclusion, after having 8 years of experience with a clinical psychologist who turned patients over to me since I was about 16, 17, 8 years old, for about 8 or 9 years, until I became so busy I had to move on. I was traveling so much. But at that time, hypnotic techniques were used by me, and then I came to a conclusion about hypnosis. The reason I bring this up is this hypnotist here in Essex County, New Jersey, has been accused and is being investigated by the police department for using hypnosis to train and teach and help people in all walks of life. But there were some suggestions of medical practice with it, dealing with prostate or what have you. I'm not going to go into the details. It has nothing to do with psychology or the mind or what have you that I can think of. And his advertisements and the accusations point out that he includes children amongst his patients. So now it's become a major, major story, and it's being investigated by those who are concerned about welfare and what have you, and the abuse, and perhaps his practicing medicine without a license. Why do I find that's very ironic? Because when I was taken to court in 1986, it was an experience not based on some malpractice, because I considered myself not only a thought reader mentalist, but also a hypnotist. But I came to the conclusion that hypnosis, the hypnotic state, the hypnotic trance, doesn't exist. Lest I didn't make what I say clear, I'm simply saying there is no such thing as hypnotic trance. I was deceiving myself. It was basically the power of suggestion, and nobody was in a trance. It makes it all the more interesting in recent years, where you don't hear many cases of people saying they were molested or attacked or overtaken while they were under hypnosis. By the way, if that ever happens to you, and you're under so-called deep hypnosis, and someone starts touching you improperly or doing things that leave you very uncomfortable, I'll tell you how to break the spell. Just get your ass off the chair and walk away. No, don't wait 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Just get up, walk away. Because you're not in a trance. You've left your mind, your imagination, your thinking to be encompassed by the power of suggestion, which Alfred Hitchcock, one of the greatest directors of all time, terrified us by the use of the way he created images when there was no violence of any kind and no blood to be seen. So I came to the conclusion, and you see I had an offer of $5,000 to anyone who could prove a hypnotic trance. Well, the headline showed that I won the case because I was sued by the hypnotist and her key witness, who was a psychiatrist, unfortunately, or psychologist. Unfortunately, that was not a best choice because I made a sideshow of the experience, and even the jury got a kick out of it. The judge was so upset he threw the whole case out, and I no longer offer $5,000 for proof of hypnotic trance, not since 1986. I now offer $100,000 to anyone who can prove a hypnotic trance of some kind. It's interesting, all through the years, and by the way, if I said 5,000 earlier, it was actually 50,000 I was offering then, which made the temptation to get 50,000 from me very strong. But since then, I've offered 100,000. And what's fascinating, folks, is that I've traveled the world 3.5 million miles, and not one hypnotist has ever tried to sue me to collect the money. Oh, I'm not naive. I'm not saying there are not people out there that are tempting. God forbid, and I realize lawyers are not used to gain money. But there's a slight catch to my offer now. Fine. You sue me, you prove a hypnotic trance exists, you get the money. But if you fail, and there's a signed statement you must fill out, you pay for every single expense in that lawsuit. Boy, did I make a certain kind of lawsuit unpopular. See you next time.